Welcome to Tellypathic, your visit to the world of episodic telly with a strong backbone of Star Trek. We are your two hosts who are mad about telly, Mark and Gary. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Mark. How's it going?
Not bad, not bad. So we're still on the Star Trek train today, right? Your choice.
Yeah,
Your
indeed.
choice. Yeah. Tell everyone about it then.
Well, yeah. So we have talked about this episode in a bunch of our previous episodes, I guess. The previous.
Yeah, it keeps coming up, doesn't it? It does.
Keeps coming up. We keep talking about, do you remember that classic season 2 episode, The Measure of a Man? And I thought, what? It's been actually a while since I've seen it. Let's actually watch it and we can talk about it today. So, yeah, I picked episode 9, season 2.
Yes.
Measure of a Man. Yeah.
Yes. And weirdly, this is our 9th episode of Tellypathic. How about that?
Oh, is it? Oh, I did not do that on purpose, but that's pretty sweet.
No, but it is. And weirdly, Matter of Honor. Did we do that last time? We did that. It was episode 8 of season.
Was it?
2. And it was our episode. Yeah, so about that.
That explains, because Netflix was just on to the next episode. It's like, it's already on Measure of a Man.
It just you thought it was mind reading, Yeah, and for me. And for me, yes. As soon as I start on Netflix. Yeah.
So it's a cracking episode. I'll give a quick, really brief overview of the episode if you've not, if you guys haven't heard about it before, and then we'll go from some scenes that we like, right, Mark?
Yes.
Cool.
Which is most of them. I've got to be honest, it's probably all of them.
Yeah. This is pretty. Spoilers. I think we both like this episode quite a lot. So. I guess the basic premise is that the Enterprise is sort of doing a crew change, and they're kind of relaxing at this station. And whilst they're there and docked, this gentleman arrives called Commander Bruce Maddox. And he says, I'm going to take Data and I'm going to disassemble him. He's property of Starfleet. I want to make more Datas, and I'm going to disassemble him. And obviously, the captain's like, you can't do that. And he says, well, no, actually, I can. I've got the transfer papers already, and I'm going to take Data and disassemble him. It turns out that there's a JAG on the station, so I don't know what that stands for. A lawyer is probably the easiest stationed on the
it's a judge appointed. Got something or other, I imagine.
Judge appointed, something like that, maybe.
I don't know what the G stands for.
She's on the space station, and there's some history with Picard, but basically Picard goes straight to her and says, I need you to make a ruling to stop this from happening. There's more details which we'll get into, but essentially they have a court-like case, a hearing that takes place about whether Data is allowed to resign from Starfleet or have the freedom of choice to not undergo this procedure and potentially get killed, or not, basically. And it ends up that obviously he wins his case, and he is given the right to say he does not want to undergo the procedure. And that's kind of it. Episode ends.
It was.
And I say that's kind of it, but there's a lot of good stuff here.
Yes. I have to say, I haven't seen it in a long time. I was thinking, that's a really good episode, and then I was thinking, would it still stand up? It's been a long time since I watched it. I mean, it's been about 4 years since I last watched this one, and I was watching it while I was cramming all of Next Gen, so it was in the melange with a load of other episodes. It didn't disappoint, and it was better than I remembered it. It was even better, and I remembered it very, very well. So it was even better than I remembered. Oh, by the way, JAG stands for Judge Advocate General. So there you go.
Thanks for the pull.
So Philippa, that character is called Philippa. The opening of the episode does make me salty because I used to be a big poker player, so I know stuff about odds and betting and stuff like that, and it just annoys me. Essentially, they're playing 5-card stud, right? And in his hand, Data's got 3 queens.
Who's playing 5-card stud? It's important.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's Data, O'Brien comes in, who insists on a certain seat because he goes on about luck, and Data saying, no, he's not rational. And he goes, I know it's a fact. If I'm to the left of the dealer, and all this.
Yeah.
Riker, Pulaski, we see Doc Pulaski. Is that it? Oh, and Geordie. Yeah.
Next to Data,
so playing 5-star stud, and Data's saying stuff like, yes, it's a fairly simple game, blah, blah, blah. And the strength of the bets are a reflection on the strength of the hand. And old O'Brien looks at Riker and goes, time to pluck the chicken. Which made me laugh.
Which is ludicrous, because it's like, as a machine, that even a large language model today would tell you that the strength of the hands, it does not correlate to the strength of the betting, would not correlate to the strength of the hands. Like, it's kind of ridiculous that an AI or an artificial mind would ever read about poker and not understand that bluffing is a core part of the game. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's not just bluffing; it's also bet sizing to get the most.
Yeah,
principle of poker is what's called expected value. You try to work out what gets you the most expected value for your play, right? So if you did that play over and over again, what's the way to maximize the amount of money you're going to make? Anyway, let's not go on about
that. But long story short, it's a joke about Data sort of not quite getting his humanisms right, I guess, is probably the start of the episode as a joke.
Yeah. So anyway, it turns out it becomes a face-off between Riker and Data. And Riker's just got 4 hearts up. And Data's got a pair of queens up and another queen in the whole card. So he's got a fairly strong hand. And anyway, they start betting. And essentially, there's quite a lot of money in the pot. And Riker just raises it 10, right? Now, Data can literally put 10 in and see the hands for a big pot. So, it's like a 10 to 1 shot. If he's on to better than 10 to 1, he should do that. That's just basic poker. And he doesn't. He folds. And it's so annoying to see that. It's like, why would you do that? And he goes, and then he basically gets a lesson about bluffing, right? He goes, but I didn't. He goes, why would you bet that? You should only bet that if you got a good hand. And he goes, you'd only win if you. And he goes, well, I won anyway because you folded. It's all that kind of stuff.
It was an interesting thing because I guess they're trying to say, like, this is his first time playing poker, which is an interesting note because obviously at the very last episode of Next Generation, Data's playing poker fairly well. This is a step along his journey to becoming more human, and it's almost like a child, right, who's maybe never played poker before. They might know the rules, but it's kind of silly that Data would be that naive as a machine that has learned poker from reading about it, which he says he feels like he's ready for the experience after he reads it. He talks about it to Maddox later in the episode. But it's kind of silly that he's so naive. Like you say, the pot, there must have been like 600 or something in the pot, and then it's just all he needs to see is 10, and he's like, nah, I'm out. Like, what? But it's fine. We'll skip over it. It was still fun. It's a fun scene.
It just makes you salty if you know about poker, that's all. But we're learning a bit about Data, and he's kind of learning things. And then basically an Admiral Nakamura, I think it is. Oh no, there's a bit of to and fro. Picard runs into the Jag who had a go at him for the actions on the Stargazer. Is the Stargazer the one where he invented the Picard maneuver?
It is.
Is that the one?
And he was, I think, and now I don't know my Picard history as well as perhaps should. She was talking about his court-martial because of the loss of the Stargazer. Now, I don't remember that history.
No, I thought it was the action. I didn't hear him say the loss. I thought it was about the actions which forced him to do that very short warp jump. So he appeared in 2 places at once to the enemy. That's what the Picard maneuver is. But I assumed that was... He does say in other episode that wasn't like a clever move, that was an act of desperation for us to
but she said she says to him, he was like, you enjoyed the process. It was a court martial. She was like, yeah, but a court martial is standard procedure for the loss of a ship.
Yeah.
So that's what made me. I was like, oh, really? I didn't realize that the Stargazer was lost. But there we go. Just me not knowing my Star Trek history. I'm sure there's Star Trek buffs rolling their heads right now. But yeah.
I love the fact that this was written by. It was a debut piece of work. This story written by Melinda Snodgrass, who'd been an attorney in the law. So she kind of knew the dynamics of courtrooms, right? Which makes sense because it feels. I mean, they're shortcuts for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot. I was going to talk about that.
Yeah, there's shortcuts in that. But in essence, you felt the essence of a law court.
The essence of the hearing. Yeah, yes. Yeah.
But and a great piece of writing. She kind of got the characters down pat. All right. I'm sure there was a better script doctrine from the showrunners, but even so, it really felt quite good. And there was tiebacks to other, earlier Star Trek stuff, right? They involved data, so it was quite important in this. And indeed, there was a line that comes later on that harked back to Farpoint, because Pinocchio is raised. Riker actually says something like Pinocchio's strings are cut. Now I keep saying Stargate. In Farpoint, he actually met as a joke about Data when he first meets him, where he says, "Hi, Pinocchio," or something like that, right? So there's a callback to that as well, which was really cool. Really
yeah.
Anyway, Picard was talking to the Philippa, the judge, or the lawyer who. And sort of castigated her, but she's kind of flirting with him. Well, definitely.
There's history. There's clearly history.
Yeah, there's attraction there, and certainly on her side, at least he's all right with it too. Right? She goes,
he is, but
you're still the damn sexiest captain, and he's like,
yeah. You can tell that they obviously once had a relationship, but it ended from his side.
Okay,
that's how I read it anyway. That
yes.
he's less interested in her, and he's still actually quite annoyed about whatever happened. Like, we're kind of, it seems like she ran his court martial, and he's obviously pissed about it. But
yeah,
so it was cool. What was cool about that scene? Sorry, I just wanted to talk about it. Was Picard is on the station, and you can see the ship sort of in a window.
Yeah,
and there's other captains. Other people of high rank, you can see them in their red shirts and pins. And Picard sat on his own. I thought that was interesting. He sat in the corner. He speaks to his character just a little bit, which I quite liked. But the funny thing that made me laugh is when Philippa walks in, he sort of drops his coffee, or he drops his tea, right? He's like, oh my God. And I thought, I've never done that, where I'm on my own and I've physically gasped and gone, oh God, when I see someone.
Depends what you say, mate.
It was ridiculous. Yeah.
So there's anyway, he castigates for enjoying the process rather than being focused on getting to the truth. That was his point, really, wasn't it? That kind of sets her up as the character to come, right? We all know about Chekhov smoking guns, so we know, TV. There's a reason for this.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then we see the Admiral come onto the deck with another man who is side-eyeing Data. Data notices and is just looking back at him, and it's like,
kind of. You skipped a little bit. Those two appear on the space station and meet with Picard, and the Admiral is like, he comes up to Picard and he's like, I'm really excited to see the Enterprise. Show me the Enterprise. He's hyped to see the Enterprise, and there's this.
Yeah, he goes on about the history of the Enterprise, doesn't he?
That's right. There's this bloke behind him who's pissed off. He's like, "Yeah, this is Baddox. We'll talk about him later, but can you show me the Enterprise right now?" And then the next scene is them on the bridge.
Keen. Yeah, he's super keen, isn't he? And he's getting around. And then Maddox, the other man, Maddox, kind of coughing, a bit annoyed. But also, as they're walking around the bridge, he's side-eyeing Data, and Data looks back at him. And I didn't know if it was well, it turns out it's recognition, right? Data recognises him. But it could be read when you're watching the episode that he's just looking at back with curiosity as someone who's just looking at him, staring at him. So
Yeah.
there is, but it turns out Maddox is like an expert in sort of cybernetics. Has been studying Data's creator. What's his name? I always
Union
get this
Song.
wrong. Yeah, I always get him messed up with Khan's name, right? So yeah, Union Song. He's been studying it and trying to, and he's nearly cracked how to build a positronic brain. And essentially, he wants to sort of work with Data. And it's funny when he talks about Data, he talks about it, and Data goes up and says, "Oh yeah, this is so. We are acquainted. He was, in fact, he was the only one who opposed my entry into Starfleet on the board.
The party of one who opposed my entry to Starfleet on non-sentient grounds. I think it was something like that. He says, which is great.
So Maddox also throughout most of the episode, Maddox only refers to Data as it. Everyone else is he, right? But Maddox specifically calls him it, and clearly sees him as a machine only, right? But he's fascinated by this machine, in essence. So Maddox talks with Data, talks with Picard and Data, right, about what this involves. Data's interested. It's intriguing. He asks him about some technical stuff about have you worked out something, the junctions problem on the positronic brain, and he's like, not entirely. Which leads you to feel like he's not really cracked it yet.
That's right. He covers himself by saying, "I haven't solved it, but I'm close. Confident that part of disassembling you will give me those answers." And Data's like, "Well, if you don't find them though, that's it. Yeah. I'm gone, and you're still out of luck." So that was the argument of. You might find the answers, but if you don't, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, Data phrases it this way: does the memories? If you transfer this to the mainframe, the memories won't survive, will they? And things like that.
Yeah. So he says as well, like, I will preserve Data in terms of his memories. I can store them I can store them in storage. And we can access his memories. So in a sense, Data won't be gone, even though he'll be disassembled.
Yeah.
And that gets brought up later as maybe that's not quite as good as it sounds.
Yeah. So they discuss it, and Picard says, "Well, firstly, there's also a scene where he invites Data in, and he says, "So how do you feel about all this?" And Data makes the point. He says, "Well, Geordie's eyes are far superior to human eyes. Is that right?" And Picard's like, "Yeah." He goes, "So why aren't all officers compelled to have their eyes upgraded? The sort of eyes that Geordie's got?
Why are all humans not required?"
Picard can't really answer it, and he goes, "It's because I'm not human, then, isn't it? That's why you would allow it's considered okay, whereas not for humans." And it's weird how Patrick plays this, because he kind of plays it like he's pissed off. It looked like to me, right? Like,
yeah, I agree.
A bit angry.
But I feel like that was audience. It was tricking the audience, because you're right. He appears pissed off. He's like, "That'll be all, Mr. Data."
Yeah.
He's been owned from a debate standpoint, and then he turns to the computer and he's like, "Computer, get me every piece of information I can about transferring an officer." Like, you can tell immediately he's actually going to fight it for Data based on Data's argument. So it was really good. It appears that he's annoyed that he's lost the conversation in that sense, but it's actually he's getting ramped up because he's annoyed that this is even happening.
And and what they talk about is Maddox wants it to be all voluntary, but when it's like Data saying, "No, I refuse to take part in this," he's like, "No, well, okay, here's your transfer orders. I'll be given transfer orders. You are to follow me, and then we can start the work." And then doesn't Stuart go and talk to the judge advocate and sort of say, "Is there any way out of this?" And she's like,
He
"Well,
does.
he can resign. He can resign." But that doesn't work out because the Maddox comes back with, "Well, he's property of Starfleet." Right?
Property of
He's
Star Trek. He is property of Star Trek.
Property of Starfleet.
Yeah.
So like it sounds like Data's forced into complying to being taken to pieces. In fact.
which is where Picard says, "Is there anything I can do?" The judge essentially, is like, "Well, you can challenge the decision that he's property, but to do that, we must have a hearing." And Picard's instantly like, "Well, let's have a hearing then." And she says, "Well, I haven't got any staff."
She goes, "Well, we don't need a hearing." And it's like, she goes, "Well, I'll summary decide. He is property of Starfleet." And he goes, "Okay, we will have a hearing." And Riker's there with them, right? And it's like,
well, she says, "We've got no staff, so it'll be incredibly difficult." And he's like, "Well, don't you have procedures and all sorts of, rhetoric to solve problems exactly like this?" And she's like, "Well, actually, yeah, I do. The most senior officer, so that would be you, would act as defense, and the second most senior officer would act as prosecution." And
yeah.
Riker is
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, he's like, "Not only do I not agree that he's only a machine, he's actually my friend. I refuse." And she says, "Well, if you refuse, then
it's back to my summary decision."
Summary decision, yeah. And then Riker's like, "Well, I have no choice then." Great.
And then she says, "And if I believe you're acting one whit below your abilities, I will summarily decide for the end of the case."
Yes.
So Riker has to put the best case he can together.
Yeah,
and
which is all a bit ridiculous, right? Because it's just we're super crazy fantasy land here, right? Where like, if you think about the amount of lawyers and red tape that exists, God knows what that would be like in Starfleet. Yeah. And, they would definitely be, and obviously the weight of this case becomes more apparent later in the episode. But there would be people all over this. So instead, we're just going to do it with bare bones people, a captain and his first officer who don't have any sort of legal training. And Picard himself admits he doesn't understand any of this stuff, which is why he's asked
tell me about this gobble. His words are something like, "Can you explain this gobbledygook to me?"
He's pissed about red tape and legal documents. He's not interested in that. Which is cool. It's a nice side of Picard to see. Because he's so nerdy about stuff. You think, he could be into this legal stuff. No, absolutely not at all.
And we do actually see also Data in his room going through stuff. So he's got the hologram of Tasha Yar. He's got his medal. He's got all this stuff. He's kind of boxing up, ready to move, I guess.
Personal effects, right? And Maddox rolls in, doesn't knock on the door. He walks straight in, and
Data's like, "Isn't it customary to knock on a court?" Data's all like that.
He just ignores Data, and he's like, I'm here. It'd be easier if you just came with me. And he was just trying to like convince him, but he's obviously made it way worse by just invading his privacy.
I have to say, I'm impressed with the shorthand in this episode of how they get on with business so quickly, because they cover an awful lot in quite a short time, but it doesn't particularly feel rushed. The shortcuts, as we've discussed, but it doesn't. It feels like they just pasted it really perfectly. This could have been a two-parter, in fact. Really, the amount of sort of story in it, but they do it justice, considering how they got that 45 minutes.
45 minutes, it's tight. It's a tight episode.
Get it in. So
let's go to the case, right? Let's talk about the case.
The case starts. So it's various sort of discussions, but basically the key bit, I think, is before the case starts, we see Riker going through Data's blueprints, right, and looking at sort of blueprints.
There's a small hint about the angle he'll take.
The CGI is the CGI is all right, but the model he's looking on screen of Data doesn't look nothing like the proportions of Brent Spiner. It was ridiculously wrongly proportioned. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
It just looked bad.
Yeah.
It looked like a dull kind of proportions rather than a Data proportions. But he does find a little red blippy thing in the middle of it. And first we see Riker smile at himself, and then suddenly he's like, oh, God, what have I found? You know, and he knows he can't not use that, which is, again, not true. You just wouldn't pass that on, would you? If you were in that position, you just wouldn't.
Well, maybe. Like, it depends, right? Like, all of the computer searches that you do would, I imagine, be audited on the ship. I imagine if the JAG went snooping, she'd be like, well, why didn't you raise this, right? And then that's it.
You're suppressing evidence, you know, things like that. Yeah. But anyway, he's a bit choked about it. Anyway, then he comes and starts talking to Data, but his whole goal is to show he's an object rather than a person.
Yeah. So maybe what I'll do, right, is I'll be Riker's position, and then you can be Picard's position, right?
Yeah.
So as the case begins, there's actually a cool moment where they're reading out. Riker's obviously prosecution, so he goes first. He brings Data to the stand. He's like, "This is the only thing we're talking to," or right? He says "thing," which is fun. You know, Riker's gone full into his mode. He gets
Data's records.
Data's records on, and it starts listing off all of these medals and achievements that Data has, and sort of Riker's like, yes, you know, let's move on. Obviously, we know who Commander Data is, and Picard's like, no, let's hear it all.
Full records, yeah.
I want to hear it all. Yeah, and I love that because you're just like, okay, Data's a beast. You know, at this point in his career, which is fairly early in the series. You know, he's got like 8 medals or something.
Yes, he's got various commendations and medals, right?
Yeah, which is pretty
which is pretty
Riker's
cool.
position. Yeah, Riker's whole position is to disprove sentience, essentially, and to highlight that he is just a machine. He is a tool. He is not a conscious being, so he could not be treated as such, or he has not got the same rights as such. So that's his angle that he takes. So he spends time basically proving he's a machine. You know, he brings out some rebar, gets Data to bend it easily.
Yeah. And old Picard's like, objection, there are mega strong species or something like that. And the judge says, we'll continue with this. And so he bends that bit of metal.
Bends the rebar.
And then he goes
takes his arm off.
Yeah, but he does apologise today. He says, I'm sorry about doing this. And he takes his arm off and starts walking around with his arm. Again, showing he's a piece of equipment rather than a sort of functioning sort of.
He goes into some very light details about what makes Data, which I thought was kind of funny. Again, a little bit of a shortcut, like just briefly. He runs on a neural net, and it's just like, okay,
he runs on advanced heuristics, and it's like, they've read that in an old AI book from the 90s. I remember them going. They do this a lot, going on about neural nets and heuristics whenever Data's mentioned. It's like, all right. Doctor Who used to do this in the 60s. I remember it kept going on about cybernetics, especially with Cybermen, right? Going on about the principles of cybernetics. Like, someone's read a book about cybernetics, because cybernetics did used to be a science. It isn't anymore, but in Star Trek it is a science again. So stuff like that.
That's cool.
But in the end, the brutal closing movies. I can't remember his words. He's just like, "Can you do this to a human?" or something like that, and just switches off Data. Basically dehumanizes him, right? Dehumanizes
completely. He's like, he is he's a machine that was built by man. He's a machine that will be switched off by man.
By man, yes.
And then he nudges something in his back, which I believe, to my knowledge, has never been used again in canon, except for possibly the movie where the Borg Queen is. I can't remember. But maybe
that something like this happened when he encountered Law in one of the episodes. But I could be wrong.
Maybe it's used a few times, but yeah, it was like especially in season 2. I think this is the first time we've seen it. Is a switch. It basically turns him off straight away.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, "Oh damn!" And Picard's facepalm.
He is
what a devastating. He's like, what a devastating presentation of, like you say, dehumanizing data.
Yeah. So Picard asks for a recess, which is granted, and he just goes to 10 forward and starts drinking, right?
Well, I think he's hanging out with Guinan. I don't think he's going to drink.
No, he goes to Guinan and tells her about his woes. And then they just discuss, even if, and they talk about the consequences if he can successfully replicate data, what sort of use of these new beings is going to take place. And they basically come to the conclusion it's just going to be slavery, isn't it? It's just going to be slavery. And then basically Picard uses that in a really cleverly worded way, right? It's not just talking about what's the criteria for being alive, and it's intelligence, sentience, and something. I can't remember the specifics, but intelligence and sentience, isn't it? Being self-aware.
Consciousness is the last one.
Yeah, and consciousness. And he basically says, well, would you say he's intelligent? And because he asked Data to, how fast can you calculate things? How much do you know? And all this. What's his memory capacity? All this, techno babble about that. And then basically he's taking the line of, well, I don't, am I sentient? And things like that. And then he throws this at the judge, which is basically, future history will judge you on what you decide today. Are we going to... And he comes up with an absolutely killer line, which is, Starfleet is to discover new life. Well, there's new life sitting right there, right?
Yeah, there it sits.
What a line.
There it sits.
What a line.
Pointed at him, waiting.
Yes.
And I love that. Yeah, it's a fantastic piece of writing. Yeah,
that's it. You will be judged by history on what you decide today. I don't know, and he starts saying, is this consciousness? And the judge actually says, which basically we're trying to decide whether he's got a soul. And I don't even know if I've got a soul. So, things like that. And the judge decides on Picard's sort of really clear argument that she will not force Data to. It's up to him. But it's his choice and his choice alone. So that turns out quite well.
It does, yeah. I think another point that Picard makes, which I think is worth talking about, is he points at Maddox and he says, if not him, but other men like him will come and they will eventually succeed. Whether they have data or not, they will eventually succeed. That's just the nature of technology. They will eventually succeed in creating an android. Yeah. The decisions we make here today on this android, this being, will affect their future. And one android, one data, and he says, "Excuse me, Commander," is a curiosity. 1,000 androids, 10,000 androids is a race.
Yes. Yeah.
And who is Starfleet to not find to go out and find new life? There it sits, it's over there.
Yeah.
And it's waiting for us to make a decision about how we're going to treat that race in the future. Yes. And I love that. That's just a fantastic argument. That, semantics aside, what are you going to do with the entire race? Damn them to property and slavery?
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
It's really, really effective and moving, actually. Right. Sort of, because, and you can't fault Riker's how he fights the case either, because he is clearly doing his best to win. So there, basically, the judge, he makes it too big for the judge to feel comfortable to judge any other way, really.
Yes.
So that's pretty, and and she makes the right decision. Maddox is kind of, but Data goes over to him, formally denies the request, and then says, "But I find some of your ideas intriguing, and if you get further on your work, I'll still be here." So leaving, and then Maddox then says, "He's remarkable." First time he uses he, rather than it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah.
Oh, and Maddox is pretty cool with it. He's pretty cool with it. I feel he's convinced, which is interesting. Yes. And we can talk about it maybe in the summary about how it might, what we personally think about it. But
it's funny because I feel like if it's lifted slightly, it was basically I need this. I'm doing this research and I need Data to assist me, because he understands. I think his processing powers might sort of help me crack something. That would have worked. That would have totally worked, rather than I want to take him to pieces to figure out how he works.
That wouldn't have worked for the episode, though.
No, it wouldn't have worked for the episode. I should have mentioned there was another thing where when Data resigns, it's kind of a going away party, and Geordie's really quite put out, isn't he? And Data talks.
Yeah,
there's a brief scene along those lines.
There is a brief scene, and it's another. I can't remember which episode it is, but there's a scene where Data tells Geordie that he's the closest thing he has to a friend, or what he would consider a friend. And this is a moment where it's almost the reverse, where Geordie, everyone else is kind of, I don't know, they're still joking with Data. It's kind of odd. And Geordie's sat on his own, and he's pissed, he's upset, and he's sad about it. He's like, my friend is potentially going to die.
Yeah.
And, Data's trying to console him in the sense of, trying to use logic in that sense. And Geordie's kind of like, well, none of that matters. My friend is going and potentially going to die. There's no logic about it. I'm sad.
Yeah, it's just,
which I love that. It was a good little scene. Good.
There was one bit of Picard's advocacy which we didn't talk about, but I think it's really important and gives real heart to this episode, which is he starts going through Data's things. He says, "These are your medals. Why do you have these?" And he goes, "As a remembrance to sort of devotion and service." And then he pulls out something out. I can't remember what it is. But the third thing he pulls out is, it's the book. Yes. Picard's giving him a book, right?
It's a gift. It reminds it's a symbol of friendship.
Yes.
Friendship.
And then the last thing is like a little hexagonal bit of plastic. But essentially, when you press a button, there's a hologram of Tasha Yar. And he says, "Could you tell us about this?" And Data's like, "I'd rather not, sir."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I think I made a promise, he said, which he did. He made a promise to Tasha Yar. He'd never talk about this, right? In an earlier episode. And he said, and Picard kind of must know, right? He says, given the circumstances, I don't think Tasha would mind. And he says, "We were intimate. She is the only person I've been intimate with." It's quite moving. It's quite moving.
Everyone in the court, though, it's ruined. It is intimate, and then it's ruined because everyone in the court, you can't see my face, but everyone's like, oh. Like they do those stupid faces, like, oh my god.
Yeah, Riker's face
palm kills the moment.
Riker's kills the moment. Face palming a bit, isn't he? But it's really another cool moment. Anyway, once he's won his case, there's a little celebration party, but Riker's off on his own in the meeting room, just looking out the window, and Data comes and talks to him. And he says, I can't, what I did to you in that court, I can't come and celebrate with you. I just, I don't deserve to be in there. And Data's saying, is it true that if you hadn't have done this, there was a summary decision? And he says, yeah. He says, well, even though it hurt you, you still did it. So, you went through pain for me, to help me. And Riker's like, you're a wise man. And Data says something like, I hope to be one day. Something
With
like
your
that.
help.
With your help. What
Yeah, with
a
your help.
lovely
Which is a
moment
fantastic
again.
line.
What a lovely
Yeah,
moment.
and he says, he says, you went through pain for me, and I will never forget it.
Yeah.
Which again is it's like a damn Data. Like this is the quest for human. He gets damn close in that conversation, I would say. And
It's really, really good. Really good. So there's nods backwards to Far Point, like Pinocchio, and there's nods. Basically, future things will be referencing things like the poker from this, so it's kind of interesting. Also, Picard has to take the judge to dinner because she talks about taking her to dinner right at the beginning and right at the end after the judgment. She said, we still doing, doing dinner. So I think Picard's going to be.
No, Picard offers, doesn't he? He says,
he does offer.
He says, Philippa,
Yes,
before you leave. And she's like, what? She's like, dinner? And she's
Dinner.
like, oh, are you buying? And I was like, buying? What? This is
You don't have money and stuff.
Yeah, I was like, sorry. This is some sort of 20th century language you're using.
Yeah, it's probably like slang for like Netflix and chill, right? It probably means
and chill.
am I going to get some or something? I don't know. Might be that. So a terrific episode. Apparently, I didn't know this. I've just read this. They brought out an extended version in 2012, an extra 12 minutes.
Oh no way! No way!
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I wonder if it's good. It does exist. But and it's also kind of nice to see Tasha Yar back. I know just as a hologram, but even so,
for an episodic TV show, Star Trek does have a through line, and it is nice when it gets referenced. It is cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Let's imagine this situation anew, right? Is that the line you would take to is that the line, like say you had to prosecute Data in this scenario, right? Let's imagine you're Riker. What line would you take? Or have you thought about it?
I think may present him as much as possible as an object is probably the way to go. My line, but conversely, the line that Picard took, which is a good line, is similar. I do something similar, which is how we treat others is what we become, right? I would have used that line, which he kind of does, but not explicitly. I always, I believe you need to treat people how you want to be treated. It's the old, if you fight monsters, you'll become a monster. Right? If you treat people like beasts, you're becoming a beast. It's all that. If you treat an android as subhuman, as other, then you're degrading yourself. Right?
I thought about it, right? Because I was like, they touch on it close. They get close to it in the episode. Like they talk about, would you deny the Enterprise, say we were going to put the Enterprise in for a refit and the Enterprise objected, would you stop it? And everyone's like, well, no, it's just, it's a, and so they're touching on that. And I think almost that's probably where I would go, is go more down like the tool side that he is, right? Like Data can walk out into space. Data can, do things without oxygen. Data can go into danger without, a human being in danger. I would probably go down the line of these are the pros outweigh the cons for humanity, and I would probably try and sell it from a humanity's perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Say, look, this is a tool that humanity invented, and this is a thing that we would use to save lives and do all this good stuff. And ultimately a machine can't be sad. He might mimic that he's sad, but he can't be sad. You try and go down that line, but they kind of don't. They stop at the like he's just he's a physical machine, which, as Picard says, is irrelevant in this conversation. The relevancy comes in his his agency, right?
Yeah, yeah,
which is relevant today. A lot of people are talking about large language models like it's AI, and it's not. It
no,
doesn't
yeah.
have sentience. It doesn't have agency. It's not an intelligence. It is just a guessing the
A
next word
regurgitator.
model.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting. It was fun actually, just thinking about some of this stuff, some of the ethics and philosophy around androids, and of course, it's
I mean,
all ruined.
another approach, and I'd have to think through how to put this succinctly in a court. Another approach would be something along the lines of, okay, so we've got this what we consider as property, but how you treat your property reflects on you too. And you could sort of talk about stuff like, okay, it's not legally wrong, but if you saw a child sawing up a doll and then sawing up another doll, is that okay? Are you okay with that? Is that child okay as far as you're concerned? And it's like, the point is, I'm trying to magnify, find an extreme example of when you treat property in a certain way, that's a reflection of your psyche, and it can be polluted by culture by allowing that sort of thing. It's kind of
Right.
that.
So you would go
probably
Blade
more
Runner
on a much
route.
more, I guess. I'd find it really difficult to find anything other than what Riker did as a sort of a pro. I find lots of possible angles as why you shouldn't do that, but they all come down to do not degrade yourself. Right, that's what it essentially comes down to. By degrading something else, you're degrading yourself.
Because
by allowing that in society, you're degrading society. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like the episode kind of frames it like Picard is up against it, but I actually feel like it's harder to argue Riker's position. Because Data is so human-like. He is so.
Yeah, he clearly passes the Turing test.
Yeah, he's such a we obviously. I mean, philosophers have talked about conscious, whether it exists, materialism, and all that stuff. But like, whatever it is, Data is unique. He is an individual. At least we would define him as that. I think in our world. And so, yeah, I almost feel like Riker's position is more interesting to try and figure out how to get through. But yeah, a really cool episode. And one thing that I wanted to mention is of course, this is one of the episodes that the latest Picard series tramples all over.
I was going to come to that. Season 1 really kind of tries to run with the issues, and it just
not only that, Mark. Not only does it run with the issues, but it tramples all over everything that happened in this episode. This amazing piece of television. So this is a little quick Picard rant for anyone who's not seen the new series, and I wouldn't waste your time. Androids have in fact been invented in this future, and unfortunately, this law that is set in this episode is completely trampled over. Androids are used as tools. And are treated horrendously, and in fact, the androids are rebelling, and there's a terrorist attack, and the androids are fighting back, because it's a super original story.
Well, someone watched The Matrix and thought, you know what? Yeah,
someone watched Blade Runner, right?
But you know what?
Like,
there's other things that kind of contradict or suggest some of the issues that seem profoundly difficult. Aren't that difficult? For example, Data invents his own child, creates his own child in a fairly, I think it's early season 3. I could be wrong. And
yeah, it might be.
So therefore, Data can make a positronic brain, but
again, she makes no laws about not making them, and they don't sort that out now. But there's laws about owning them as property, which is completely trampled in. The Picard series. So yeah,
I just want to add, ignore Gary when it comes to season 3. Season 3 of Picard is pretty good. It's 1 or 2 that are probably just not very good. Just not very good. Though there's one particular episode that just makes me laugh so much that I find it a joy to watch because it's ridiculous. But apart from that, Picard season 1 and 2 aren't very good at all. But 3 is pretty solid. 3 is actually basically a nice conclusion to Next Gen.
Kind
my
of,
opinion.
but it's
Yeah.
not as good as the actual conclusion of Next Gen,
Okay.
which I think is a fantastic last episode.
Yeah, but what I feel is because these are 3 acts, a bit like the Star Trek movies acted towards the original series.
Yeah,
Does
that's
that
fair.
make sense?
And it does. That's a really good, actually good way of putting it. And season 3 is a good bit of fun, and it has
Season
some great
3, I have to say, the arc of all of the characters are kind of interesting, but Riker and Troy in particular, it's a really interesting dramatic arc going on.
We should talk about some of season 3.
Well, we could do
because
it
there's some great episodes in there, but we definitely, I refuse on grounds of sanity that we won't talk about Picard 1 and 2 more than my rant,
and I don't particularly want to. Though, you know what? For a joke one, Christmas, April 1st, I might actually suggest the one where Picard is doing an outrageous French accent. It's just it's something to behold. That one.
Yeah. I was looking for my eyeballs for weeks after they rolled out my head. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I kind of think. Do you think we've chewed all the sugar out the gum on this one? What do you think?
Maybe. Yeah. Anyway, I love this episode. I thought it was very, very good.
Yeah. This is. I don't know. You know, there's so many episodes I like, but this might be the best Next Gen episode.
Yeah, this is peak. I mean, it's up there for me. It's not my favorite episode. I think this is peak.
No, I don't think it's
Roddenberry.
Peak
Roddenberry Star Trek for me. There's no fighting. It's just ethics, philosophy, and science fiction. And you know what? It's top draw episode.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. Okay. So that about one's out for this episode. So to all our listeners, peace and long life.
And live long and prosper.